Hey guys, it's Amy Astro here, and guess what we're going to talk about today? Guiding. A very important topic to talk about in astrophotography. So, let's get started. Guiding is incredibly important in astrophotography, and it is something that I didn't know about when I first began doing this. And I remember when I made that first phone call up to a vendor and told him what I wanted to do, and told him this was the telescope I had, this is the mount I had, what else do I need, and then he told me I needed a guide scope and a guide camera. And I'm like, why? I have a telescope and camera already. What do you mean a guide scope? Well, that's when I was educated just a little bit, and I was informed what guiding was all about and why it's so important for us to do it. All right, so why do we need guiding? Well, our mounts are pretty good, but there are gears and such in them that there's slop when they tend to rotate. You know, you figure you've got a gear and they come together like this. Well, there's a certain amount of backlash going on when one gear catches with the next gear and goes on. So there's a natural imperfection in how our mounts are designed. But they also can keep time just so, well. There's just natural errors that occur. And then there's, disturbances in the skies, whether they're clouds or moisture or whatnot. So the stars, even when you're looking at them, they always appear to be just bouncing just a little bit. It's that twinkling effect. Well, that bouncing could cause our images to start having star streaks, and we don't want to do that. So we get a guide scope and a guide camera, and they work together as a team, and they talk to our mount, our telescope mount, and they make little corrections. So picture this. You have a tic-tac-toe board, okay, or a chessboard, and you put your star in the middle of one of those squares. Now, the guide scope teamed up with a program like PhD2 will track that star, and its goal is to keep it inside that square on the checkerboard, okay? And as it starts to move outside of that square, it will send tiny signals to your mount, and it will make the adjustments to keep everything going, the way they need to be. So it's really important for you to have a good guide scope with good glass in it and a camera paired up with it that is very sensitive to pick up on those small changes. Because if you can keep that one star that you're guiding on inside the square of the checkerboard, you are going to have sharp stars in your images, okay? Now, sometimes people will say, well, I've got bad guiding. My graph is going all over the place. Well, it could be that your seeing is bad, and that means there's moisture in the air, there's clouds in the air, there's light pollution in the air. All things that we don't have a whole lot of control over, but they do affect our images. But you could also have poor polar alignment, which means you just need to check it again and recalibrate things. You could have your guide camera is not as in focus as it should be. Now, you don't have to be razor sharp with your guide stars. You can have a little chunky star and it will do just fine, no problem. But don't let that graph that's doing this drive you crazy, okay? If you've watched that RMS error and that total error is less than your overall image scale for your camera and telescope, then chances are you are doing just fine and you're going to have a great image. So don't panic. All right, so now that we know some of the basics about guiding and why we do it, let's look at some different guide scopes that are out there on the market. And I'm going to show you my progression of where I started and where I'm at today, and some things I like or dislike about things. But let's start with my very first guide scope. This is a Stellar View 50mm guide scope. I have it paired up with the ZW-120. This was a great guide scope. I used it for about a year. But let's comment on this thing. It's very heavy, okay? When I purchased it, it came originally as a finder scope because that's all they had in stock, and I had to purchase separately a helical focuser to go on here, okay? Now, I also had to purchase the guide rings, and then I had to purchase the camera. So it wasn't a kit that was just really obvious to somebody starting out with, and the vendor had to help me get all the pieces. And I believe what I paid for this whole kit is more than what I paid for the current kit that I'm using. And this is just okay. It's not terrific. But this is what I want you to pay attention to. And I'm going to stand this up here. I don't know how well it's going to show on camera. But this whole thing wobbles. It has flex to it. It bends. So it's not really a great connection. It's threaded. It's a helical focuser that I twist, I get focus, and I lock it down with this screw, but there's still some play. Every time I lock this screw down, my star goes out of focus slightly, so I have to go past focus, lock it down, and hopefully it will get in focus, and that's kind of a nuisance. So I'm not real crazy about this particular setup. Now, the second setup I got was specifically for guiding. This is the Orion 60mm guide scope, and I had to buy the camera separate, but at least the focuser was all attached to the guide scope, and the rings came with it, so it was a nice little package. But again, this whole thing, and this one's even worse than the last one, it wobbles. So, you know, if you got a little bit of wind or drift during the night, I mean, the wobble in this thing is unreal. It is not a stable setup. I mean, can you hear that? That's crazy. So this one I used less than 6 months. I couldn't keep guiding with it. The flexure in it just bothered me. So this one was not really one of my favorite ones. Okay? So that's, you know, basically they worked, but they're not my favorites. Now then we're going to come to this one that I purchased a few months ago. Okay? Now forgive me, I didn't take it off the scope because I have everything lined up right now. But let's go right here. Stay in the camera here. This one is the Altair Astro. It's a 60mm guide scope. And what's different about this guide that sets them apart from all of the rest that I have seen out there is that this whole piece is threaded together. There's no helical focuser with it. It doesn't wiggle, it doesn't bend, there's no flex. So this will stay true all night long, and I don't have to worry about any extra wobbles. I mean, really, we tie everything down with our cables. We don't want any wobbles to, you know, happen and that would affect our images. But this one, instead of a helical focuser where you rotate it and push down on a screw, this one has a thread option here. And it's a locking screw where I can unscrew this side here and screw this out until I get a rough focus. And then I come down on this side and there's another locking ring that I could screw it out to get my fine focus. And that worked really, really well. Now I will show you one hint though. When you're trying to get focus the very first time on a guide scope or even on an image scope, go take your setup outside into the backyard or wherever you have a nice long view of something. And if I look through my backyard, past my neighbor's house and across the street, there's some power lines out there. And what I did is I found if I could aim this just perfectly at that power line, then I could get my rough focus here on the power line. I got it as tight as I could so that when I went out that night to do focusing, I already had stars in my guide scope or in my main imaging camera. And it really sped things up. I wasn't stressing that I was losing dark, cloudless sky trying to accomplish focus for that first light. So if you take that extra step of trying to get a daytime focus on something that's way far away, we can talk about a treetop, a light pole. In my case, I used a power line, and these were the big heavy-duty power lines so I could capture them. It will just save you so much time. But now that you see what I like about this guide scope, I thought we would go into PhD. And let's set this guy up, and I'll show you how easy it is to connect one of these for the first time ever to a computer system, all right? So let's jump over to the computer.
All right, everybody, we're over here on our computer that is actually attached to my telescope rig. I plugged it into a monitor so you guys could see what I'm doing, and we'll record it as we go. But I am in PHT2 guiding, and I'm in version 2.6.8. And what I wanted to do was show you how easy it was to get yourself a new profile for a new guide camera scope combination. All right, so what you'll want to do is come down here to this little symbol that looks like a USB connection type port and click connect. And it's going to come over here and it's going to ask you about connecting your equipment. Well, let's pretend this is the first time we have connected any of this equipment to. So let's just use the wizard, and the wizard works wonderful. All right, so let's start with here. It's asking us what is our guide camera. Now the key here is to have everything plugged in and powered on, and if it is, it knows what you have. Now I will go ahead and grab Altair camera right up here on the first one, because I don't have the old version, the vintage 2015-2016. I have their new version that has an updated sensor on it. It's that new Aptino one, the AR0130, very sensitive sensor. So this is great for guiding with, all right? And it says, is there a camera already connected to this PC? And if so, PhD can find it. I will say yes, it is connected. So now it's going to go out there, talk to the camera, and it's going to come back and figure out its pixels and everything else along with it. All right, I'm going to leave this at binning a 1, and my guide scope focal length, I need to tell it this, is 225 millimeters. And it came back and told me that my pixel scale was 3.44 inch per pixel. And let's say next. Now it's wanting to know, is my mount connected, so it can figure out the speed. And I did go ahead and plug in my mount, and it is this EQ Mod ASCOM HEQ6. And really this is the Sirius mount that I'm plugged into. And let's say yes. And it will go through, it will come up with the SID roll rate and all that good stuff. All right, he just plugged them in. There we go, and my rate is 0.20. Let's say next, and let's bring it down where I can read it with my trifocal glasses here. Please make sure the EQ Mod ASCOM settings are configured for PhD2 according to the document. They are. So I will say proceed. And do I have an adaptive optic device? No, I do not. So let's just keep going. And enter a name for this profile that you would like to name it. Typically, I name things based on the brand, so I know what I'm using. It's a 60 millimeter guide scope with the 130 camera on it. And I'm going to go ahead and build my dark library right now. And let's say finish. Let's come back here to this window, my dark library. Now, this is based on what exposure do you think you're going to be taking your images while you're guiding. Typically, you don't want to do, below 1 second, because that would really give your mount heart failure, getting a new signal every 1 second. I mean, it'd be like dancing off beat here. So you need to give the mount time to breathe and respond to the signals. So I leave this at 1 second for right now, but I am not going to guide at 1 second. Max exposure time, 6 seconds. I never go that high. Let's stop at 4 seconds, okay? And it's going to take 5 frames for each one, and this is just for my dark library. And then I'm going to say this is my Altair, oops, let's learn how to type. Altair 60, 130 dark library. Okay, and let's say start. Now the cap is on my guide scope right now, so cover your guide scope. It is, and it's going to go ahead and generate its own little dark library, which it will subtract from the images that are coming through as part of the whole guiding process. So this program really does a lot. It takes a picture, it subtracts the dark, and it sends a signal to your mount, correcting, all with the goal of keeping your star in that one square on the checkerboard. So really, I mean, I'm telling you what, for a free program, this is an incredible program. It's very powerful and it does a lot for you. One thing I should point out about this particular guide scope camera combo, I purchased it as a kit, so it was all intended to go together, which makes life really easy. The camera is super tiny. It's about the size of an old school film canister, and it is lightweight. So if I was to compare that to my original guide scopes, there is a significant difference in the weight between the two, which is impressive considering I went from a 50 millimeter guide scope all the way down to up to a 60 millimeter guide scope. See, it looks like we are almost done here with our library. There we go. Operation is complete. Uncover my guide scope. And I am good to start running. Okay? Let's see. If I go here, now when I start up on the following night and when I'm ready to go outside, I hit that connection. This is my equipment profile that I created. It is my Altair camera. It's on my EQ mod mount. And all I have to do is say connect all. Well, currently they're all connected, which is a good thing, okay? But let's just take a peek at, well, let me disconnect everything real quick just to show you what this profile looks like all stretched out, okay? So here globally, English is my language, but check that out. They have a whole bunch of other ones that you could choose from. Let's see, I only go for the major releases. I tend not to deal with the little beta tests. And dithering, I do dithering and I tend to stick with random, so it went ahead and planned that for me. My camera, I'm not doing any noise reductions, or minimum auto exposure is 1 to 5, which is what we just set up. The pixel size of my camera, 3.75, it knew that and it set me up with a camera gain of 95. Now I do come in here and I change this one, disconnect non-responsive camera after 15 seconds. Well, you know, if I did that, this thing would be disconnecting all the time. And sometimes I just wanted to wait out those clouds. So I tend to bump it up to 600 seconds, which is 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, if I want to shut it down, then I'll shut it down. Okay, let's go over here to the guiding. Now, all this is the default that it came up here with for me. The focal length, 225, and it calculated the calibration steps. You could hit the advanced button and just verify all these numbers if you want, but these are all the ones that it just came up with, and it figured out my calibration steps. Okay, and let's see. You can auto restore your calibration, which is great if you have an observatory and you're not having to move around a lot. I tend to set up breakdown every single night. I go to different locations, so I calibrate each time I go out, okay? Let's see, always scale images, okay. Stop guiding when the mount slews. Yeah, that's okay, as long as it starts back up. Let's see, fast recenter after calibration or dithering, sure. Enable mount guide output. All the default settings it set up for me. And then this is the settings that it typically plans for to use. Hysteresis and resist switch. Now the PhD2 has a manual out there and they explain which one is best to use, what's the difference between all of them, and over time you may want to stray and try some of these other ones just to see how they work for you. But when you run the guiding assistant, sometimes it will automatically swap these for you, if it feels that is better for that particular moment for what you were looking at. I just leave this in autopilot. It has worked just fine. No problems at all. Okay? And we'll say okay. I just wanted to show you an up-close picture of it, but this is that locking ring that I was trying to show you and how I threaded it out to get my rough focus, and this is where you can get your fine focus. But you know, this is pretty clever. I haven't seen this on any other guide scope packages out there, and this is my first time trying this, and I've been very happy with it so far.
Well guys, I hope you liked this video that was all about guiding. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Leave me comments below about what you would like to learn about in future videos. Also, check out my new website, which is amyastro.com. You can also follow me over there on Facebook as Amy Astro. You can also find me as one of the group moderators on the Backyard Astro Imaging Club on Facebook. They have a section on their website that is full of data. Now, this is one of the most unique things I have found with a club is they store data up there for you that's high quality data that you can download for free and process it yourself. So if you've got an itching to process some data and you haven't had this guy cooperating with you, or you're just curious about what a camera and telescope combo would do for you, I bet you there is some data up there for you to download and check it out and see if it's something that you like. So this last week we did pass the 2,000 subscriber mark, huge milestone for me, and we accomplished this in under a year. In fact, we accomplished this in 11 months and about 12 hours. Yeah, I'm not counting hours or anything, but yeah, I was very excited for it to happen. So thank you, everybody. So until next time, I am Amy Astro. I appreciate every one of you who take the time to watch me. I am wishing you all some great health, some clear skies, and I will see you all next week. I love all of y'all. Goodbye, y'all. What are you doing on my table? Huh? What are you doing on my table? Oliver, you don't belong up there, you know that.